My name is Eero Teerikorpi, and I'm founder and CEO of Continuent. And today we are talking about the use case of extremely high volume traffics, actually billions of transactions a day with the terabytes of data under management. JJ is just double checking. We are recording this webinar, right?
We are, absolutely. And we'll make the recording available just within the next day or two.
Excellent, thank you. And good morning and good afternoon again, and welcome to our fifth use case webinar. There will be 4 more in this series, so pretty exciting continuing use cases. And you may or may not know of Continuent. We are about availability, and specifically about the MySQL availability. This is the mission that we started already back in 2004, actually a couple of years earlier. Then we've been on this mission ever since. And Marketo use case, it's a high volume MySQL, highly available system use case. And you may know Marketo quite well. It's a leading market automation software entity. And nowadays it's part of Adobe, but it's really significant player on the SEO and content creation related analytics. And this use case is about the challenges that not specifically for Marketo, they are typical for the many software service vendor, but since Marketo's data volumes are so high, they get pretty amplified in many ways, and how to manage that operation while maintaining 24/7, 365 continuous operation. And it's also going to be excellent example of how to scale the operation. But when we started with the Marketo over 10 years ago, initial deployment was just for a small company for clusters, and today they are running well over 100 Tungsten clusters, catering thousands of their customers. Couple words of myself. How do I qualify to, in general, talk about MySQL Marketplace, MySQL solutions in general? I've been around this is my 7th software company that I've founded or been part of that as a startup. And I've been in the MySQL Marketplace basically early days. MySQL history really started as a part of the LAMP infrastructure, the Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP that created the backbone for a lot of internet applications. And we saw early on an opportunity to create a highly available MySQL database solution for the business critical needs. And obviously I'm a father of a Continuent Tungsten solution we are covering today, but you may not know that I'm also called as a godfather of the Calera, also known XtraDB cluster and a host of other names. Calera technology is similar to what we were running early days of Continuent. We used to have a solution called mCluster. It was also a synchronous replication-based solution like Calera. But I felt that it didn't have the legs, the kind of direction we were wanting to take Continuent and our solutions, which effectively was a geographically scaling, highly available MySQL-based systems. Calera team used to work for me, and they created an excellent solution over the years. But it's mainly for the local availability, not building global solutions as we are doing. And I think we made the right decision at the time when we abandoned that track. And as you can see from the picture, I'm an avid sailor. I have my roots on sea. My father was a commercial sea captain, and I've been crossing the Atlantic Ocean a few times. And I was at the Finnish Navy and officer there. So there's certain elements that I love most. And even today, I'd rather be on the San Francisco Bay, which is my home base, on a sailboat, but I'm also happy to be here today talking with you guys. So stay with me, smooth sailing. So where does Continuent fit in this kind of a marketplace we are? Continuent we've been around and seeing the rise of open source technologies and the dominance they currently have. Also, the cloud computing, since early days, we felt that this is an important element of our solutions. Currently, some 70, maybe close to 80% of our customers are running in the cloud instances, significant departure of the on-premises deployment it used to be. And when we were building our solution, we wanted this to be a platform agnostic solution that you can run effectively on premises, in virtual environment, and at any cloud environment. We want it to be highly available. We want it to be globally scaling, and we chose to do with asynchronous clusters to get this done. Continuent is not the biggest company in this marketplace. In general, databases and highly available databases, we never will be. But we aim to be the best at what we do. And that has always been the case. And that if you ask our customers, I think that they could assess that this is to be true. Marketo use case, and this is about software as a service, continuous operation, using MySQL, running huge amount of data. Some individual databases are in multiple terabytes. It's actually tens of terabytes today. Is kind of and the total under management is at even bigger. Kind of a little recap on Marketo. When we started working with them 10 years ago, they were a small startup, less than 10 million in revenue at the time. And when they started, they just had a couple of clusters. And then as they grew, we grew along with them. And now there's definitely over 100 Tungsten clusters deployed to catering their customer base. 2013, Marketo went public, back to private a couple of years later, and then acquired by Adobe, almost $5 billion valuation. We've been in a nice ride with them. And this is not uncommon with our customer base. There's a lot of our customers have gone through similar track, grown significantly and been acquired at the high valuation. And they still stick with us, which we naturally appreciate as a part of the growth and process. The main challenge with most of the software as a service companies, and also specifically Marketo, it's a highly available continuous operation, and added flavor being managing with the huge amount of data. And this is similar what the most software as a service companies are dealing with. Many of them have hundreds of thousands or even tens of thousands of customers. Many of them have also the worldwide customer base, so it's not only local availability, but it's global availability. And many do grow over the years, which is that you have to have an easy scaling model to accommodate that need. Marketo's challenge is a bit unique because while they came to us for the availability, we really had to deal with the performance-related issues early on. Obviously, continuous operation is high on their list, as is scalability. And last but not definitely least is the cost. So how to manage these challenges while keeping the total cost of ownership significantly lower. If you look at the performance that come from, this picture from a few years ago when we had a joint webinar with Marketo and discussed about this same subject matter. But this is kind of an interesting distribution of many of the software service customers. They have a lot of small customers. They have some medium customers, and then they have a few really large customers. And you have to deal with those kind of different sets and kind of dividing the customers in different architectures, and kind of maybe the biggest customers have their own clusters, and then smaller customers you can fit few tens or even few hundreds on the single cluster, how to deal with that. But this created a significant problem And part of it is also was the fact that the high transaction volume, there was a significant latency. Replicas were well behind for the primary database. At one point that when we started dealing with Marketo, these replicas were up to 3 days behind primary. And so think about possibly a catastrophic event on primary and there are no replica available to fail over. Not really an ideal situation. Even if you had an excellent solution by itself for the automatic failover, but if replicas are so far behind, that won't help you operationally. So the real challenge that we had to address was how to deal with this replica lag. And the solution was that basically one of the core components of the Tungsten Clustering, Tungsten Replicator, and its ability to have a parallel replication. At the time, that didn't exist in MySQL own native replication, and for the large part, it still doesn't exist in different use cases. But we were able to solve this problem by introducing the parallel replication in Marketo's environment, and it was able to bring down the lag from days into minutes. Obviously, we would prefer that to be seconds, but then physics come in the way, and then the kind of sheer volume of data involved forces our hand, and then whenever we can, and most of our customers are in sub-second range on the latency, which makes it a really fast and easy failover process. The key main challenge for the Marketo and for the most of our customers, first challenge, to be honest, is significant majority of our customers is availability, continuous operation. And this is where kind of a continuous solution shine. This is a complete solution. It's fully tested. It's proven over the years. You have thousands of clusters running, and it's huge loads of data running and scattering the billions of dollars revenue. And it really is designed to provide 4 nines, 5 nines availability. And not only for the failure event, but also in many cases, even more importantly, for the maintenance. So with our solutions, we can do rolling upgrades for whether it's the underlying the hardware, operating system, database version itself, schema changes, and a host of other issues that typically DBAs end up dealing with. But with the Tungsten cluster, we can do this basically while still catering the end users. The way we do it, we bring one of the nodes down, make the update there, and then bring it back in the cluster to do a secondary replica down and update that. And then when we have done the replicas, then we can basically make a switch and then also update the primary. And while all this is going on and actively servicing the users and customers. The way we do this is really the key ingredient, our secret sauce is around the intelligent proxy. But it's not proxy alone that gives the capability. It starts with the replicator. Tungsten Replicator is the one that replicates the data. It has we introduced the global transaction IDs well before those got introduced in MySQL solution as a whole. And then we have a Tungsten Manager, which is effectively a business rule-based orchestration of the cluster. And Manager and Tungsten Proxy, these are talking actively with each other. Manager knows the effectively topology of the cluster, and it could be cluster of clusters. It feeds that information to connectivity layer, Tungsten Proxy, which then can route the traffic. If it's an update, it always goes to the primary. If it's a read, it goes to typically the replica. There are some cases that if the replica lag is too long, we can route it back to primary as well. And the scalability. as stated, Marketo started small and grew over the years and built a significant backend based on the Tungsten clusters. And the solution there is a pod architecture. Effectively, a number of identical Tungsten clusters. In some cases, they may choose to size the compute instance larger or smaller, but effectively they are all similar. Each of them have a 3-node cluster, and then you can host one or many customers on each of these pods. And when you have exhausted the capacity of the one pod, you just keep adding another one, and all the new customers that you gain, you can route the traffic to those pods, and then you keep doing that as many times as you want, and effectively provide you infinite scalability by using this type of architecture for scaling. Really handy and effective and quite manageable in many ways. And obviously automation is a big part of this. So we have an API that you can tap in and basically create a rules-based deployment models. We have done our own Tungsten cluster AMI available at the Amazon Marketplace using this same type of automation, or in some cases our customers have used their own tools of choice, whatever they are using the automation for other needs. But the fact that they can run this in any different environment, and we have an API interface to do that, it creates a great platform, simple and easy deployment of additional clusters on the fly. Tungsten dashboard is quite handy for this. This is kind of showcasing what Marketo deployment looked early on, and dashboard kind of gives you snapshot view of what the status of each of your clusters are. And you can have a cluster level view, or you can have a basically deeper individual database view and see what the state of each of these databases are. I actually have here available a live active cluster environment. Let's put the refresh on, and we can basically manage. Obviously, while this is refers to Marketo, this is in our own environment. This is not the Marketo's. But when we do this type of environments, it helps us to provide customer support online, so that for our own testing needs and other needs, it's handy to have. In this case, we have 4 3-node clusters actively running on the background. And to demonstrate what would happen that if, for example, there is a failure on one of the databases. Let's take the pod number 1 and database number 1, and let's shut it down and see what happens. In this case, we see that there is an error. The Tungsten manager puts the cluster in the maintenance mode, but keep in mind that even during this failure, this cluster keeps servicing customers. So from the customer's point of view, there was effectively no disconnects. There may be a small window when the traffic halts, but then it automatically resumes. And in this case, we have now that a cluster that is functioning. Database 3 was promoted as the new primary, and database 1 is out of commission for now, unless we do something about it and try to fix it. But so one of the ways to do is we have all kind of ways in command, and let's do for example, recovery act here. So these attempts to bring database number 1 back online, before that, obviously, you want to take a look at what the issue was and make it whatever actions needed. But if you conclude that the database it was still fine, you can try to recover and bring back. And if it's successful, it brings back as a replica. Let's put the refresh on again, so we can see what's actually is taking place. And not only it kind of automatically tries to start the MySQL, but it also, if it works, then it brings it back to be in line with the current primary, so that it catches up all the transactions that took place during the outage. And as you can see, we are back in action, and it's now in replica. And if you want, we can easily then promote this database one back as a primary. And once again, we reshuffle the back end in such way that the operation is continuous from the customer's point of view, in this case, Marketo's customer's point of view, so that the replication and all the activities take place. And it just goes through the process promoting database one as a new primary and database 2 and 3 are the replicas now. Once again, relatively fast operations, as you can see, and it all obviously depends on the database size and transaction volume, how fast these activities can take place. But this effectively same process, for example, that if we wanted to zero downtime maintenance operation, we could bring one of the nodes offline. But since we had policies automatic and cluster detects that this database actually was functioning properly, it brings automatically back. So the first thing what we should do, if we want to really do the maintenance operation, we need to set the policy maintenance, and that allows us to do more work on these databases and then operate them. We are not going to do that right now, but you get the idea how easy it is to manage and operate. Obviously, we do have a command line interface also for the cluster if one prefers that, or we have also API-based interface if one wants to use that. This Tungsten dashboard is using our the latest API to manage the clusters. Let's go back to the presentation. The last but not the least challenge, cost. When we started engagement with Marketo, they were dealing with the huge data volumes, even as a small startup at the time, and they felt that MySQL was not capable of dealing with that volume. So we actually saved them, moved from a MySQL into Oracle database. That seemed to be the only alternative at the time for Marketo. And then while we did that, we also provide them a benefit of the really low overall total cost of ownership, because our pricing is not linear. We are working in an open source realm, and we need to basically adjust and accommodate our pricing with that mindset in mind. And the larger the deployment our customers have, some of them have hundreds of Tungsten clusters, many of them tens of clusters, they get the benefit of this curve that the more they have, any additional incremental node will be relatively cheap. And then they get the benefit of most of our customers have been with us a number of years. When we sign up the new customer, we fully expect them to be with us 5 to 8 years. Many of them we expect to be over 10 years. So then we do see a lot of our customers signing up 2 years, 3 years. We have cases that they sign up 5-year subscription with us and getting benefit of this model. Another interesting benefit we offer our customers is what we call true up. And let's say that the customer signs up with 3-year subscription. We allow our customers to add additional licenses without any additional cost during that 3-year period. And then at the end of these 3 years, we have a true up based on the actual deployment at the time, and then reprice the subscription and then let it run again. So this gives a significant freedom for our customers to plan ahead their deployments without the be worried about the significant increases of subscription price during the agreed subscription period. We don't require any license keys. It's honor system based. We trust our customer, and that kind of ultimately has developed this multi-year engagement with most of our customers. The current average is over 7 years, giving you an idea how long-term our customers are. So Marketo, it was about the availability, performance, scalability, cost. And then in this list, an additional element, what we want to highlight quite often is the 24/7 support. And we do believe, and we have actually proof points to prove that our MySQL related support is the fastest in the industry. An average response time is less than minutes for the urgent request. Our customers run business critical applications. While we offer availability on software level, we want also be available on the support front. And anyone who replies to support request has 20+ years MySQL DBA or site reliability engineering experience. So you deal with the best and the brightest of the MySQL engineers dealing with the replication and clustering technologies. Quick rundown, Continuent Products. Tungsten Clustering obviously is the key. This is kind of example of the different type of deployment. For example, the games is one of our customers have a geographically distributed backend for their gaming application, account management, and host of other applications. And this gives not only continuous operation and zero downtime maintenance, but also geographic distribution of the MySQL clusters. These run on multiple clouds, AWS, Google, or Azure. You can run in hybrid cloud on premises, and for example, cloud, you can use that as a continuous operation, or you can use this for the migrating from on-premises into cloud. Also, clustering has this really intelligent proxy with the read-write splitting, load balancing, a host of other capabilities. And the fact that we run on full MySQL, this is not a MySQL compatible solution. It is the actual native MySQL under the clusters, and we do not require any app changes, which is also another great benefit. Tungsten Replicator is a core part of the clustering, but it's much more. It's actually, in a clustering, it is homogeneous replication from one MySQL instance to another. In other use cases, we can use the heterogeneous replication, for example, from MySQL into Redshift for analytics, Kafka messaging bus, or Verta as kind of a columnar database, also another form of analytics. There's a host of other targets that you can use, Hadoop, for example, and we can use this as basically the reporting or migrating in the other environment. But although we see more customers migrating from Aurora towards our clusters than the other way around. So that's also a kind of nice tool what we can use. We can take the Aurora instance and replicate from there back into MySQL. Amazon make it really easy for you to replicate data into Aurora, but it makes it extremely difficult to get it out. Use our solutions to help that. Dashboard is on unique. We are not charging anything for it. It's a free of charge, but it's offered as an additional component for enable for you to manage your clusters easier. And just to kind of a recap on the benefits we bring, and you may find interesting that I bring up our support as a #1 benefit. Once again, highlighting how much we value this internally, but also how much our customers value. So while we have a great software product, our support is even better and faster, and something that any of our customers value really highly and come to rely on. And while we are not MySQL remote DBA service entity, the fact that we are dealing with the MySQL and MySQL related solution, we effectively in many ways also end up providing a highly valuable MySQL DBA consulting as a part of our offering. Once again, free of charge, built in our cost structure that we offer our customers. And the cost savings that you could always consider using some of the solutions available, managed database services on the cloud, or you could use a do-it-yourself type of deployments and then augment that with the other remote DBA consulting houses available for you. But then when you start looking and the bigger your scale you operate, most likely our solutions ends up being far more cost effective in many ways, because they're going to remove complexities of the operational elements. We move the failure events that requires a lot of work to bring databases, and we effectively reduce the number of DBA hours needed to administrate and recover, effectively building much lower cost overall solution. Some of our customers run hundreds of Tungsten clusters with just one or two people managing them, which is a significant saving on its own. Obviously, there is this continuous operation. When you're running, whether it's the software service, e-commerce, gaming, financial services, telco style application, these need to be available 24/7, 365, without any downtime at any point. Otherwise, you will end up losing revenue, or you end up losing customers, or both. So there's a real direct connection between availability and continuous operation and your revenue. The fact that we provide you zero downtime maintenance windows is also a great benefit. The fact that the operation continues is one. The fact that you can do this on daylight, you don't have to do it this Saturday night, 2 o'clock in the morning. You actually can do it as a kind of going concern process, whatever updates, maintenance, operation you need on your databases, while you're still servicing your end customers. Geographic scaling. This is not for everyone, but there's more and more companies operate in a global scale. So you want to be able to load balance between these entities, and you also want to be able to have this geographic distribution with the not only availability, but disaster recovery point of view. Being able to run effectively in any environment is really important, and being able to run in hybrid environment and being able to use this type of solution for the migration. There's a host of benefits comes from this type of ability. And once again, not to forget, our proxy is one of the key ingredients of the whole cluster solution. It's not the only part of the solution, but it's a significant importance. And the fact that the replication and Tungsten Manager runs together really nicely, it creates an overall ability to manage clusters at ease. And then adding replication on top of that, you actually can have a solution that you feed from clusters into analytical backends. And once again, when you use a cluster replica, you can build a solution that is highly available, that even if you have a database failure events, application continues, because we are actually making the changes on flight, so the replication knows which one database is the primary and can basically feed in this analytical without the disruption. And to finish it, this is MySQL. You can use any version of MySQL. You can use MariaDB, you can use Percona server. You can effectively use any flavor version of a MySQL of your choice. You can deploy these clusters in minutes rather than in hours or days. And we also offer a highly secure environment. Some of our customers are dealing with, for example, with the sensitive medical data, and it requires HIPAA compliance. For example, that even AWS requires high level of encryption and both in the in-flight connection and also on the data itself, and we can support that. Quick question for the audience. Did you join us today that you actually are investigating a MySQL availability solution, or maybe you have already something in place but you are not quite happy with it, or you have something in place and you are really happy with it? So we would like to know that as well. So that, or maybe that's something in the future. Please use the chat window and let us know what your current thoughts are and what you are thinking of doing, and we can definitely help you if you are in active phase of looking a new solution or alternative solution, and we have some nice competitive upgrade offerings that makes this whole thing even easier for you to digest. Just to finishing this up, our team has been building data availability solutions since 2004, and we have a team of experts on various aspects of the clustering, so that you have to think about data replication, database connectivity, and the database cluster management, and all of those should have a really high qualifications in our team working on this a number of years. Our support team is really the best of the breed on the MySQL marketplace. Each of them have a long experience dealing with the operational databases, not necessarily only MySQL, but the significant experience in also with the MySQL. As stated earlier, if I check the average response time on support requests across all our customers during the past 2 years, it's consistently been less than 3 minutes. Think about it. When you have a business critical MySQL application, and if anything happens, you want to have the confidence that someone, highly knowledgeable someone, is available at minutes of notice and being able to stay with you and help you through whatever issue you are dealing with. These are the customers that highlights. This is not by far a complete list, but it kind of showcase that what kind of a customers we are typically dealing with. Some 70% of our customers are software as a service vendors like Marketo. We have a financial transaction services entities like Bluefin. We have e-commerce customers, for example, Net-a-Porter, the one of the largest, the fashion. They are managing a number of e-commerce sites, and all of their user accounts are powered by Tungsten clusters. And we have a core type of customers, as well as we have gaming companies like the Riot Games mentioned earlier. We have some large enterprises as well using our technologies for their internal systems. But all of these companies rely on MySQL. All of them are dealing with the billions of transactions, and combined revenue that we are safeguarding for these companies is calculating billions of dollars. So pretty significant value creation entity. And the customers, they don't necessarily choose because of they are satisfied with us, they stay with us, but that's something that we want to highlight. Basically, most recent customer survey, we got 100% customer satisfaction rating. I'm sure there's a number of things that we can do better and continue to improve, but the fact that we already at this level, we get just a high mark, it's gratifying. And we see the results on renewal rates. All but one customer renewed last year, And this was because of they decided to run down the business. It was a relatively large the telco equipment manufacturer who is building a new software service solution that didn't work. So they decided to decommission the whole application, and natural reasons they wouldn't continue our customer. And a little bit of a kind of a timeline. So you get the idea that what we are up to and where we are heading. One of the interesting database may be 2014, we became part of VMware for a short period of time. VMware was looking to build a new cloud offering, vCloud Air, and they were scouting a company and team to build the database as a service solution for the vCloud Air. And Continuent was chosen to be the best technology platform and best team among a number of competing offerings. We were pretty happy of the validation of our technology and team. Subsequently, VMware decided that the vCloud Air was not the right way, so they pivoted more helping and building solution on top of existing cloud players, and that effectively made Continuent obsolete as a part of the VMware fall, and we basically spun off Continuent back into the independent entity, and we've been building Tungsten related solutions once again ever since as a relatively small independent company. And we have customers like Marketo. It's the 10th anniversary coming up shortly. And the future, even if today it's already in the cloud, significant majority of our customers run in the cloud, but we will be also offering a fully cloud native Tungsten solutions coming up on the Tungsten Cloud umbrella somewhere in the relatively near future. But in the meantime, you can happily take existing solution with the Tungsten Clustering or Tungsten Replicator and deploy that in automated fashion using various tools in any cloud environment of your choice. All right, time for the questions and a few answers. JJ, are there any questions that have come up during the presentation?
Yeah, I'm having a look, Eero. And if you do want to ask questions, please use the Q&A section of your control panel. So feel free to use that and ask questions if you haven't done so yet. You can also use the chat box if you'd like to reach out to us with your questions. But there was one question here, Eero, around AWS Aurora. And the question is how that compares to Tungsten Cluster and what you presented earlier today about that product.
Sure. Aurora is excellent solution, especially if DevOps and smaller scale applications. But for example, the high volume transaction volume and also the large files database sizes with the Marketo is that it's pressed to migrate from a Tungsten cluster into the Aurora. And not only the performance could become an issue, but also that there is significant cost considerations, I think, in doing that. And so that for this particular use case, not ideal. Also, the fact that the Aurora is one of these the MySQL compatible solution. It's not native MySQL. It has a great set of the MySQL features, but it's not complete. And it's not effectively staying up to date. For example, that the MySQL 8 level features and some of the features found in MariaDB are nowhere to be found in Aurora type of a solution. And in general, if you think about the Continuent customer base as a whole, especially when you are thinking about the global deployment of applications, that provides pretty significant limits. With the shared data architecture that the Aurora is based, that's not really lends itself easy global backend solutions. We've seen a number of customers taking Aurora and migrating the Tungsten cluster because of this limitation. You can run locally nicely Aurora databases. You can even have some sort of a disaster recovery with the secondary region. It's not necessarily all as smooth you might think, but if you want to have a 3 or more regions to cover, and all in a kind of single plane of the data service, offering, for example, the way Riot Games is doing, which has the primary cluster in US West and replica clusters in US East, Europe, and Asia Pacific. You wouldn't be able to do that with the Aurora solution. And then think about the kind of a cost structure and support the fact that we can claim ourselves to be a lower cost solution, and we definitely have a much better support and consulting infrastructure for our customers. Minutes notice would be really hard pressed to find that the AWS to match that type of a service level. So all in all, we are pretty comfortable and confident with our solution, with being a better solution, lower cost solution, and better supported solution than AWS Aurora.
Great, thanks Eero. I don't see other questions for the moment, but if you still have a question, feel free to ask it in the Q&A section of your control panel. And in the meantime, just to remind you that we have recorded today's session, and we will be making this available for replay over the next day or two. So please stay tuned for that. And then, of course, we have more use case webinars coming up. The next one is in 2 weeks from now. So if you want to join us for that, feel free to sign up for it on our website also. And if you don't have questions now, but want to contact us later, of course, you're welcome to do that via our website, continuent.com. Eero, if you have any closing words, that would be great.
Sure. Yes, I'd like to thank you, anybody that who joined us today and learning about Tungsten solutions. Feel free to reach out to us should you have an immediate or future needs, or if you just would be kind of interested about getting some sort of a proof of concept type of a Tungsten deployment. We can easily enable that either on your own premises, or we can enable you to use our Tungsten Cluster AMI available in AWS Marketplace, so you can kick the tires free of charge, obviously, and with our consultative help also free of charge. We never charge POCs, and we never charge for the software cost when you're doing the POC, so that we are happy to help you. And even if you do not have any immediate needs, keep us in your mind, and maybe you come back to us somewhere in the future. Thank you for joining us today. Smooth sailing. Enjoy your rest of the day. Bye now.